Hello, I am Sanjeev Kumar from LLM third semester, Central University of Punjab, Batinda. Now I present the COP27 held on Arab Republic of Egypt, Sharm el Sheikh. COP27 starting from 6 to 8 November 2022. The government of the Arab Republic of Egypt will host the 27th session of the Conference of the Parties of the UNFCCC COP27 with a view to building on previous success and paving the way for future ambition to effectively tackle the global challenges of climate change. Sharm el Sheikh Implementation Plan. Outcome of all previous conferences of the parties serving as the meeting of the parties to the Kyoto Protocol and conference of the parties serving as the meeting of the parties to the Paris Agreement. Science and urgency. First, welcome the contribution of working group second and third to the sixth assessment report of the environmental plan on climate changes. Next, recognize the importance of the best available science for effective climate action and policy making. Next, take note of the 2022 adoption gap 4 and emission gap 5 report of the United Nations Environment Programme and recent global and recognized recall of reports of the World Meteorological Organization on the state of the climate 6 reiterate that the impact of climate change will be much lower at the temperature increase of 1.5 degrees centigrade to compare with the 2 degrees centigrade and resolve to pressure further effort to the limit of the temperature increasing 1.5 degrees centigrade. Next point, recognize the impact of climate changes on the cryosphere and the need for the further understanding of these impacts, including of tipping point. Enhancing ambition and the implementation. Resolve to implement obligation just equitable and the inclusive transition to low commission and climate releasing development in the line with the principles and objective of the convention, the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement, taking into account this the decision the Glasgow Climate Pact on other relevant decision of the conference of the party and the conference of the parties serving as the meeting of the parties to the Paris Agreement. Next point, express an appreciation to the heads of state and government who participated in the Sheikh Sharm el Sheikh Climate Implementation Summit for their support in changing and the accelerating the implementation of climate action. Next point, and including on in energy emphasizes the urgent need for immediate, deep, rapid, and sustainable reduction in global greenhouse gas emission by parties across all applicable sectors, including through increases in low emission and renewable energy, just energy transition, partnership, and other cooperative actions. Recognize that the interdependent global energy crisis underlines the urgency to rapidly transform energy system to be more secure, reliable, and the residential, including by accelerating cleaning and just transition to renewable energy during this critical decade of action. Stress the importance of the enhancing to clean energy mix including low emission and the renewable energy at all levels as a part of diversify energy mixes and the system in the line with national circumstances and recognize the need for support toward just transition. The next point, mitigation. Recognize that limited global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade requires rapid, deep, and the sustainable reduction in global greenhouse gas emission of 43% by 2030, relevancy to the level 2029 level. also recognize that this requires accelerated action in this critical decade on the basis of equity and the best available scientific knowledge, reflecting common but differentiate responsibility and the risk capability in the light of different national circumstances and the context of the sustainable development and efforts to creativity poverty. Call upon parties to the decision to technologies and the adoption of policy to transition toward low emission energy system, including by the rapidly scaling up the development of clean power generation and energy efficiency measure, including accelerating efforts toward the pass down of unabated coal power and phase out of inefficient fossil fuel subsidies while providing target support to the poorest and most vulnerable in line with national circumstances and the recognizing the need for support toward a just transition. Retreats in the invasion to the parties of the consider further action to reduce by 2030 non-carbon dioxide greenhouse gas emission including methane. Next point, adoption. Notes with the serious concern is the existing gap between current level of adoption and level needed to report to the advanced effect of climate changes in line with the finding from the contribution of working group second to the intergovernmental panel on climate changes 6 assessment report argue parties to adopt the transformational approach to increasing adaptive capacity, state heightening resilience, and the reduce vulnerability to climate change. Also, argues developed country party to the urgently and the significantly scale up their provision of climate finance technology transfer and the capacity building for the adoption so as to responsible to need and developing country parties as a part of global efforts including the national formulation and implementation of national adoption plans and adoption commitments highlights the role of the large development countries fund and the special climate change fund the supporting action and the developing country to address climate change welcome the pledge made to the two fund and invites developed country to further contribute to the two fund emphasizes the importance of the protecting conserving the resorting water and the water related ecosystem including river basin aquifers and lakes and argue parties for the further integrate water into the adoption efforts loss and damages. Next point is note with grave concern according to the information in the contribution of working group second and third to the sixth assessment report of the intergovernmental panel on climate change the growing gravity scope and frequency in all recognized of loss and damages associated with the adverse effort to climate change resulting the devastating economic and non-economic losses including forced displacement and impact on the cultural heritage human mobility and the livelihood local community and the underline the importance of headquarter and effect the responses to loss and damages. Next, express deep concern regarding the significant financial cost associated with loss and damages for developing countries, resulting in a growing debate burden and impairing the realization of the sustainable development goals. Next point, early warning and systematic observation emphasize the needs of addressing existing gap in the global climate observing system, particularly in the developing countries, and the recognize that one third of the world, including 60% of Africa, does not have access to early warning and climate information service as well as the need the enhanced carbonating and activities by the systematic observation community and the ability to provide the useful and actionable climate information for mitigation adoption and the early warning system as well as information to enable understanding the adoption limits and the attribution and the extreme events welcome and the reiterates the United Nations Secretary General all met on World Meteorology Day on 23rd March 2022 to protect everyone on Earth through universal coverage of early warning system against extreme weather and the climate change within the next 5 years and invites development parties, international financial institutions and the operating initiate of the financial mechanism to provide support and implementation of the early warning for all initiatives implementation and the pathway just the transition. Affirm that the sustainable and the just solution to the climate crisis must be founded on the meaningful and effective social dialogue and the participation of all stakeholders and note that the global transition to low emission provides operative and challenges of sustainable economic development and the poverty reduction. Emphasize that the equitable transition economics is the pathway that including energy, socio-economic workspace and other dimensions, all of which must be based on the nationally definition development priorities and include social protection so as to the mitigation potential impact associated with the transition and the highlight important role of the instrument related social solidarity and protect in the mitigation the impact of the applied measures. Next, finance. Highlight that about the USD 4 trillion per year needs to be the invested in the renewable energy up to 2033 to be able to reach net zero emission by the 2050 and that the furthermore a global transformation to the low carbon economy is expected to requirement investment at of the least USD 4 to 6 trillion per year. Also highlight that the delivering such as the funding will be required the transmission of the financial system and its the structure and the process engaging governments, central banks, commercial banks, institutional investors and the other financial sector. Within concern the growing gap between the need of the developing country party in the particular those due to the increasing impact of climate changes, their increased incrediblement and the support providing and the mobilized for their efforts in the important their nationality determined contribution highlights such as the needs are currently estimated and the USD 5.8 to 5.9 trillion for the pre 2030 period. Technology Transfer for and Development. Welcome the appreciate the first joint work program of the Technology Executive Committee and the Climate Technology Center and Network for 2023 to 2027, which will facilitate the transformation change needed to achieve the goals of the convention and the Paris Agreement. Innovative parties and the stakeholders of cooperate and the engage with the Technology Executive Committee and the Climate Technology Center and Network to support the explanation of joint work program activities including of technology needs assessment action plan of roadmap acknowledgement of the finding the final report of the first period assessment of the effectiveness of the adequacy of the support providing to the technology mechanism in the supporting the implementation of the pairs agreement 25 and decide the main challenging adapting should be the considered under the global stockholder. Capacity building. Note the capacity gap and the need to stick exist the developing countries and the call of the developed country parties increasing support to long-term country drive the capacity building intervention and enhance of the effective success and the sustainability to the international. Taking stock, note the importance of the period review of the long-term global under the convention of the welcome adoption of the decided COP27 of the second periodic review of the long-term global stock and the ocean encourage the parties to consider the operation on the ocean-based action their national climate goals and the implementation of these goals including the not limited nationality determine the contribution long-term satellite adapter and the communication forest recall that the context of the provision adopt the predicable support the developing country party should be the collective aim to show how the reverse forest and cover the carbon loss in according with the national circumstances essentially with the ultimate objective convention started is the article 30 and 48, encouraging the parties to consider the approach nature-based solution of the ecosystem and pro the taking into the consideration United Nations Environment Assembly. Agricultural. Welcome the establishment of the 4-year Sharm el Sheikh joined the work on the implementation of climate action on agriculture and of food security as well as the establishment of the Sharm el Sheikh online portal under the joint work by decision on COP27. National Adoption Plan. Welcome the report of the 2020-2022 on the progress in the process of the formulate and the implement national adoption plans and the lack of other relevant documents. Welcome the information provided by the Adoption Committee and the Least Development Country Expert of Group on gaps of the needs related to the process of the formulate and the implement national adoption plan, the progress implement national adoption plan. Also welcome the National Adoption Plan the submitted in 2021-2022 by the Cabo Verde, the Central African Republic, Chad, Costa Rica, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Liberia, Madagascar, Niger, and the Sierra Leone of the NAP Central, with the bring the total number of the countries with the submitted national adoption plan to 40 and the secretarial national adoption plan submitted and the parties. Thank you.